Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to Mentorship Mondays. All right, I'm going to give it a couple of minutes for Instagram so that a few more people can join. And I know that these are trickled through to YouTube, but I hope that you guys just bear with me. Forever Sims, Nasipi. So Nasipi, you decide to join because of the special guest. You guys, I can see you. Melodrama, Sizinka, welcome back. Vava Vu, nice to see you. Nomsam, Sizan, Dumiso, Koli, nice to see you as well. Pindarella, what a beautiful name, Pindarella. I hope I'm saying it right. Slindo Gotlati, I'm here. Nakanjani, nice to see you. Grace, hello. Kenya Mufukeng, hello to you. Nomsa Ngubeni, thank you so much for saying hello. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Mentorship Mondays. Hey Shaka, nice to see you. We have a special guest today, and I'm so excited because she's just the perfect guest to start off a Mentorship Monday on the 1st of August because we're celebrating Women's Month. I can see she's just joined, so happy Women's Month to all of you. So Dr. Gwagwa, let me see if I need to invite you or if you can. Let me see what I can do here. Nope, so let me just add you here. There you go. I'm gonna just add you shortly. I see that she is on. I just want to make sure that I can send her a ping. Oh, my typing is let me see there again. Okay, I've got girls' lunch coming up, but I just want to see now if I did see Dr. Gwagwa by name. Okay, Lulama, let me try it again. Let me try with her full name. Just bear with me, guys. We've got a very special guest today, so we need to do the right thing and get her on. There we go. All right, so I'm sending her an invitation. And she should be able to join shortly. So, oh, she's declined. Okay, she says, I'm on traversing liminality. Okay, let's get that one on. Okay, let's try it again with traversing liminality because we are talking about traversing liminality today. So I've sent an invitation and she should be popping up onto our screens shortly. In the meantime, welcome. There you are. Hello, Mama. How are you?
I'm good. Are you? I've had to get Nana to come and save me. I mean, you know me.
Well,
desperately get help.
No, we're happy that you're here and we're happy that you've been saved. I was just saying to everyone to say that happy Women's Day first. And how exciting that on the 1st of August, we get to connect with one of the most phenomenal women. And I think what's really exciting is because today we want to shine the spotlight on traversing liminality. And you're going to be telling us what that's all about. But it's so fitting. I can see my head's getting cut off. I think that's better. It's so fitting because it is the month where we are shining the spotlight on why we need to focus on girls, why we need to focus on young women. So before we get into all of that, I'll tell you a little bit about how we do things here on Mentorship Mondays. When we have a special guest, we always want to ask the special guest a couple of questions. So we're going to talk about traversing liminality, but we also want to tap into the special guest to help us with a few of our own mentorship questions. So you're going to see some questions coming up in the second half of our time together, and maybe you can give us some mentorship advice as well.
That's perfect.
Fabulous. All right. So I've got a quick comment. Sisha saying, oh my gosh, I'm so excited for this conversation on behalf of cohort 2022. Yes, the traversing liminality cohorts are already taking over. Okay, guys, let's start at the beginning. Let's first start off with Mam Lulu. What is it that for you spoke to you and said, I need to do something? Before we get into that something, what was it in you that said, I need to do more than my day job. I need to do more than what I'm doing for the country. I need to do more than what I'm doing for corporate South Africa. I need to do something for young girls and young women. What was that?
Thanks for that question, Naz, because it's actually quite important. For me, it was when I realized that, oh, actually things haven't changed from when I was a young woman. And I see that young women are still dealing with the same issues. So when I'm chairing a board meeting and they coming in to present as part of the management team, I see how men are presenting. I see how white people, because I want to be quite specific, are showing up and they're presenting. And I see these black women, senior and junior, coming in almost very apologetic. And so you almost have to dig. So they will present, they will not like own the space, own the content that they've developed. And I said to myself, but I've been there. I've been here. I thought I had these young women, they speak good English than I did. They're all that, face beat is all in place. Everything is in place. But I thought they've got it, they've got this. I realized that they actually don't. I said, no, guys, I've got to do something. It can't be 2022 or 20 whatever when we started. It's when I was young, which was some probably almost 50 years ago when I was that age. This is what I went through. I had the content. I had the intellect. I had everything that you can think of. I had the body. I had the nice hair at the time. I had just about everything, except inside, I was like peddling desperately. God knows why, because I had the qualification.
Sure. It's such a beautiful way of painting the canvas. And I just want to lift a couple of things you've said so that if others want to send any questions, we can start to do that, because what I'm hearing you saying is that you had the qualifications, you had the intellect, you had every right to be in the room, you had legitimacy to be in the room, but somehow there was your own doubts, your own questions that was, that were inhibiting you from showing up relative to others. And 40 years later, you're now leading and chairing some of these boards, and you look around and you see that young Black women are facing similar struggles to yourself. So where did you start? How did Traversing Liminality then start? What was your go-to thing to say, okay, I'm not going to let this continue beyond me. What am I going to do first?
No, I actually started by saying, okay, I have a daughter who's now 29. I said, okay, let me start and have a conversation and have lunch and actually take out my own girl out for lunch. So that's why I started as girls' lunch, because it was me and my girl going out for lunch, and she had to choose the restaurant that she wants so that she can feel like she's in control. She's choosing the place, and we're sitting, we're having a conversation. And I try to create the environment within which she can feel that whatever issue she raises, whatever conversation she puts on the table is legitimate. That's the important thing for her. And then the need, I continue to have these conversations. I was just struck about how the issues that they were all raising were essentially the same. And then I said, no, let's do something. And I started to then reach out to my own networks who are coaches, who are clinical psychologists, and said, guys, let's put something together. And then women showed up of my age and slightly younger, who also have always wanted to do something, and said, oh, Dr. G, you're putting out the platform, we're raising our hands, we want to be in there to support. So essentially that's how it started. It started informally, a conversation, and it ended up with the help of coaches like Nothemba Mxenge, Dipuo, Petsile, Yolisa Makasi. Again, I raise that because the issue of networks and building relationships at the core of all of this as well. And so through those networks and through those relationships, these women selflessly brought in the content and also their time to say, let's do this, let's do our bit. And so that's how it started.
Sure, I've got so many follow-up questions, so I'm gonna rattle some of them off so that I don't forget. I think one, we definitely have to have a conversation about the impact of the intergenerational coaching that's happening, the importance of being able to tap into older women, older Black women in particular, as young Black women, to get a very unique perspective of how to win in corporate South Africa, corporate world. I think the other thing I want you to educate us about is the difference between mentoring and coaching and sponsorship, because I think we get those things we use the term so interchangeably. Do we really know what we're asking for when we're asking for mentorship versus coaching versus sponsorship? And then the third thing I want to talk about is your growth into Africa, because I know that traversing liminality is now a continent-wide movement. And I'm sure tonight we also want to just reach, I hope potential coaches are listening. I hope potential African candidates are listening, because it's become such a rigorous process to get in, but it's a continent-wide movement that you want to be a part of. But let's start off with the intergenerational conversation. What do you think has been the most valuable thing about that conversation through traversing liminality that's come about?
No, that's quite important, because in terms of the coaches, right from day one, I was quite specific. I was looking for Black women. And the reason for that, to coach young women. And there's scope for any race, any gender to coach. And there's a lot of value in that. But in this particular instance, remember I started by saying, I've been there. I don't have to almost explain it. So I wanted people who can be there to engage with these young women who've been exactly in the same space, have felt the same because of the same conditions, the same socialization, the same context, how the context defines you, and then you respond to that context. So that's what I'm looking for. I always make this example. When I say to any woman, hey, Nyokotiza this weekend, I don't have to go beyond that. They know exactly what that means. When I say, hey, Nyokotiza, they know. I don't have to explain. I don't have to say, oh, okay, I have a choice. I don't have a choice. Somebody who's never been there, who doesn't understand that, is going to be getting into all kinds of questions, but the nuance of it, of what it means to do or not do, they don't understand. So I wanted that going to coach from that point of view. So that intergenerational engagements within the same cohort, if I can put it that way, it was very fundamental in the program. When I'm sitting in Nairobi, as I was last week, when I was sitting in Benin with the young girls, the things that I didn't have to explain anything about how they feel and why and all of that, because that's how it is. So for me, that intergenerational engagement to say, how do you show up? What are some of the things? How are you likely to trip yourself? Because although the context is there, it trips us. What we do is that we trip ourselves too in the context. So that's something for me that was fundamental.
Yeah, I wanna double click on that, because I think that's so powerful, because on a number of levels, I'm hearing you saying it's important to acknowledge and give validity to the Black experience. And so let's not be apologetic about saying that there's a very unique Black experience, maybe even unique Black woman experience in corporate. And let's not be fearful of speaking to that, and let's coach within that particular context, which I think is very important. But in addition to that, you speak about the value of women who've been there, who've got the scars for it, who know how to navigate that particular space. Sure, and I think all of that is really, really, really powerful. I think what's also striking is saying, irrespective of where you find yourself in the continent and potentially the world, the Black woman experience might not be exactly the same for every woman, but there is some universality to it because of who we are.
Absolutely, Noz. I mean, I think that the other thing I want to also emphasize is that in the way we structured the program, it's about how, as a young Black woman and as a Black woman, you show up for yourself in every sphere of life. So we aren't just talking about in the area of work in relation to a career. We also talk about how you show up in relationships, because that's important too. How you show up with your family. It's important. That also is the family is a big thing here. How there's those things you almost like, no, I can't say that to my father. I can't say that to auntie. I can't say this to Rakati. And. Again, these are things that we all understand. So we're trying to deal with the totality or the wholeness of the Black woman, how you show up yourself, period, wherever you are.
Okay, I want to move on to those other questions, but I can't. You just said something else, which I think is so important. I mean, oftentimes, whether it's Mentorship Mondays or other platforms, what I will hear from young Black women and other Black women is not having part of yourself invisible in corporate South Africa, almost having parts of yourself delegitimized, like you don't bring that here, right? You don't bring your family stuff into the space. You don't bring your your relational stuff into the space. And yet some of these very workplaces are the ones that say we're providing you with coaching, but it's only coaching around skill sets, as an example. And what I'm hearing you saying is that it's looking at the young Black woman in a holistic sense and looking at the whole person and saying, how do all of your different identities come together, and how do we coach you through that lens of intersectionality, if I can put it like that?
Absolutely, Noz. I mean, it's not possible, even if I try, which is what we try to do, is to compartmentalize ourselves. So if I've got issues here in this house that I'm sitting here in, I'm going to project those when I arrive at 8 o'clock in the office tomorrow. Or I'm going to be sitting in that boardroom. There's going to be a noise going on about what's going on back here. So it's not possible to divide yourself into pieces. It's about how you are being. And being is the reality of you. And that's what Traversing Liminality we're trying to do. We're not talking, which is mentorship. Mentorship is about how to do.
Yes.
How to do things. Coaching is about how to be. You can't do until you've been. So being is the anchor of the doing, and that's the distinction here. And you talked about sponsorship. The interesting thing is that people are going to see you and sponsor you because they see that you're showing up for yourself. There is nobody, me included, that's going to take somebody from nowhere and then say, I'm going to sponsor you. So you're going to have to show up for yourself. That's the being. And that's when people start to see you. And then they lift their hands and say, I'm going to sponsor. When they're sitting around the boardroom table, they say, Noz, I know, I can vouch for. Because when you sponsor somebody, you are putting your own credibility, your own neck on the block. And I'm saying, I know, and I'm vouching.
Yeah.
So that's very important. And I'm quickly just flipping through the distinction between those three, which is sponsorship and mentorship. Mentorship is about doing. How do you do accounting? How do you do the balance sheet? How do you do the script that you are editing? How do you do the acting? How do you do the talking or whatever? How do you do the lecturing? But it's not talking about how you are being so that you can do the best. Remember, I told you about I was qualified, I could do. But because the being was struggling, I wasn't putting on the table all that I could do.
Sure.
I show up everything that I'm capable of because I had limiting beliefs about what I can do. So it doesn't matter how much you can mentor me. If I've got limiting beliefs about what is possible for me, it's not going to happen.
Yeah. So I think that's really powerful. And I think for a moment, I felt like my comments froze, or either that or everybody's just in, oh, we're not even typing anymore, guys. I'm used to seeing like all these comments coming up, but I'm seeing Oya is saying, I absolutely love that. Mentorship is about doing and coaching is about being. I think that's really, really powerful. And that if you're not anchored in your being, it limits what you can do and also limits your opportunities for sponsorship. Because as you're saying, because the person sponsoring you is actually outlaying capital, social capital on your behalf, they're not going to take a risk on you if you don't have skin in the game. And part of having skin in the game is actually showing up for yourself. So there's a couple of questions that have come through. I will pick up those questions from the stories that we did earlier, but I do want us to also address a question which I know is coming before we get to the Africa question, which is, so how do I get a part? How do I become part of traversing liminality? This all sounds really, really amazing. What are the different pathways to either be a young Black woman who is being coached or to be a coach? If you have coaching skills and capability, are you able to, be a part of traversing liminality? And what if I'm sitting in Cote d'Ivoire? What does that mean for me? And can I actually reach out to someone to be a part of this movement?
Okay. That's an important question, Noz. I think the first one is that, as you can imagine, the scope is very wide. So we've had to kind of dig in and focus to say, this is area that we want to focus in. And we've decided to focus on the age group of 21 to 30. Sorry, I know you're just above 30, so you're out.
I'm 25.
Just above. So it's 21 to 30. And the reason, there's a reason behind that madness of 21 to 30. It's about, if you are in that age group, you are going through a lot of firsts. And the way you handle your firsts plays a big part in how your life kind of unfolds. So if you are 21 to 30, you're likely to be going into your first job, real job, not internship, first job. You are likely to be first time leaving home to set up for yourself that little apartment or that room that you are renting. The likelihood is that it's the first time you're getting into a serious relationship. I'm not talking about play. I'm talking about relationships. The likelihood is that you will go through your first serious heartbreak in this age group. I'm sorry, guys who are there, who haven't experienced it yet. And you are likely to maybe also get married during that. A lot of women do generally, and maybe your first child generally in that. So the way you, again, listen to what I'm saying. I'm not only talking about job. I'm talking about relationships. I'm talking about living home, relationship with home, because all of these things are intertwined. So the way you handle those firsts is going to, it will impact on how, the way you handle your first heartbreak is like impact how you deal with relationships going forward. Whether you decide at that age, after that heartbreak that, it means I'm useless, I'm not good enough, and therefore I might as well take the next jack that arrives, because now you're so heartbroken, you think you don't deserve anything. So that's the thing. So that space is what we call, just coming back to traversing liminality, it's called the liminal space. A liminal space is a space of uncertainty, where you've got one foot here and one foot there. This age group is a Greek word, liminal. So this age group of 21-30 has got one foot in childhood and one foot in adulthood. So just learning how to adult. And I hear a lot of them. I hear my own daughter and my own nieces saying, auntie, we didn't know that adulting is so hard. So they ask getting indoor. So we're trying to support these young women to traverse is to go across, as you know. So how to traverse this liminal space of uncertainty of firsts between 21 and 30. So the major, in fact, at the moment, the only criteria is 21 to 30. The second big criteria is you are serious about your own personal development. You are serious, because we all say, I want to, because this is not play. The problem is play. Because we deal with the being, we get very close to the skin. We are in your skin. The questions and the issues, coaches digs in those places where you kind of want to go. So we're gonna go there. And in order to strengthen your being, we've got to dig down, go to the depths of that dam. So those are the two things.
Sure.
21 to 30, committed and willing to put in the time and the energy and everything behind yourself.
And I believe we can point everyone to the website to say look up the website, but also the Instagram page, Traversing Liminality. Please DM. But while we're doing that, I want to just go back to something that you said. I think it's just so provocative and so important. This idea of firsts, and because oftentimes we know that trauma sets in around a lot of first experiences that are not positively framed. My question is the 29-year-old who comes into the program and they've had their firsts, and that first has been a very negative experience. That first has embedded itself as a form of trauma, as a form of fear, as a form of withdrawal, as a form of lack of self-belief, lack of confidence, even a louder voice of imposter syndrome than the average. To what extent do you have to do a lot of undoing in order to get to being as part of the program? And do you find that the women who are part of the program are able to step into that opportunity to undo and unravel many things?
Absolutely, Noz. I think part of it is because you talked about coaches. We're dealing with trainers here who've been trained to do just that. And so that's the key thing. So a lot of, remember, even before you get to 21, there's a lot of childhood trauma already that is set in. We just decided to come in this particular group. And so certainly that's why I'm saying you must be willing
to do the work,
to go in there. You must be willing to do the work, because certainly it is about going in there. And a lot of young women also, the issues around, I come back to this thing of home. There's a lot of trauma with a small t that we go through in the way we are raised. I mean, small things like, hi, Tula, you like to, and all of that. And it's only said to young girls and not to the young boys. And so that already sets in when you are in the boardroom, you're feeling like, and there's guys, I don't want to do too much, you know, because you are told, hi, aume. And so that also adds up. And it's important when we talk about trauma, because also we normally think trauma is only the big T trauma, as in I've gone through abuse, I've lost a loved one. Those are the big T, as they call it, big T traumas. I've been in a major accident and I got injured and I lost an eye, and. So those are big T traumas. But there's a lot of what we struggle with. Interestingly, it's not the big T. It's the small ones, because the big T's, we feel like they're legitimate. And so we can put them on the table and people will understand. But these small ones are the ones that we don't, firstly, because we're not even aware. And secondly, when it comes to my head, I'm feeling like, hi, my mother and my father have done so much for me. Do I even have a permission to complain? I'm so ungrateful. How can I say they did this to me? No, I can't. And if they were not at home because they were working, and now I've got feelings of abandonment, how ungrateful, because they were waking up at 4 a.m., coming back at 10 p.m. in order to make it possible for me to go to this good school. But the fact of the matter is, good as that was, you're not blaming your parents. You're simply saying, this is the fact. It's a fact that as a consequence of that, this is what happened. So I'm saying that you must be willing to do all of that good work. And even if you're 29, that's why we've got qualified coaches. But as I said earlier on, starting this year, precisely because it's almost as if you are part of the faculty of Traversing Liminality, North, because this year we introduced clinical psychologists precisely for that. Because some traumas, some of the issues are so deep that they're beyond the competency of a coach. So because we've got trained coaches, they know how far they can go before they then refer to a
Yeah.
psychologist. So we now have clinical psychologists, again, qualified clinical psychologists that are part of our faculty. And we've started to also have, we still have just one, a spiritual guide also, because some people are wanting to deal with their spiritual, to find themselves spiritually. How do we then, and again, I'm emphasizing not religion, not the spirituality. I'm saying that on purpose because it can take all different forms. So again, we brought in a coach that can deal with those issues. Again, as you can hear, it's quite expansive, but at the core of it is qualified people who can really help you. But also remember, now the program is 12 months.
Yeah.
Not going to resolve the issues of 29 years.
Yeah.
What it opens the space for you to be aware that I've got these issues and they are legitimate. And here is the path that I need to walk, because self-development and anchoring the being is a lifelong journey.
Yeah.
If you are 20, you are still at it. It's not something that starts and ends, because I keep saying we are human beings. We go forward, backwards. But at least if you have the tools of awareness, you can feel that, okay, there goes that trigger. Now what do I do? So those are the tools that we're just trying to bring awareness and then drop some tools in your toolbox that you carry with yourself for life.
Sure. You know, I think there's just so much that you've said, and I want to follow up on so much. And I just want to say to the guys, I don't know why, but all your comments are frozen. I do apologize. I can't see them. And I know this Mentorship Monday community that they're probably sending me tons of comments. So I want to apologize in advance, but we're going to pick up on the recording from Instagram and see if there are any questions that we need to take forward and maybe put back to Dr. Gwagwa at another time. But I know I can see that even the number of people participating is frozen, and that usually is moving in every second as more people join and some people jump off. But I do want to just make a quick comment before I ask my next question, is to say, I think one of the most incredible things is that this opportunity is free. And all you need to do is to show up. I mean, as a person who subscribes to coaching, I know how much I'm paying for corporate rates just to have a clinical psychologist who keeps my brain wired by helping me have the relevant conversations with myself. And it's no small investment that one makes. So I just think it's so incredible that there is this pathway for young women, young Black women globally, and I'm going to put it out there like that, to say I need to be coached, and there's a space where I can be coached as a whole human being in every facet of my life. So I want to go to this whole part, because I think you've mentioned Mjolo 3 times already. So I can't I can't let you off the hook on that one. And I really feel good to know that it sounds like there are lots of coaching around Mjolo as well, and people, you know, being in a liminal space around that. Guys, if I could see your questions, I would be saying to you, this is where you sneak in the Mjolo questions so that we can get to Dr. Gwagwa to share with us some of the insights that she's actually sharing through her coaches with all the participants. But I think it's an important one. I mean, one of the things we were talking about in a previous live, somebody said to me, Nozi, you travel so much. How is that working out in your marriage, was the question. And I remember saying, you know, thank you for the question, because I think it points to maybe a realization that I only realized after, but that it actually matters who you marry. And actually you need to know from the onset, are you having the right conversations with that person, and are you headed in the right direction? What are some of the big conversations you're having in the Mjolo chapters at Traversing Liminality?
No, there plenty. I think one of the key ones, again, is about relationships. How do you show up in relationships? Very important thing. And relationships here doesn't only mean your intimate relationships. It's relationships, so what we deal with, it's relationships broadly. How do you show up in relationships? And how do you take accountability for yourself and what you want for yourself in relationships. How do you know when a relationship is not serving you? A relationship might be serving your mother because her daughter is married to some very important person, CEO of something. So the family is all gloating and everything because, I mean, they've got somebody who's married big, as we would say in our communities. But that relationship might not be serving you. How do you know when it's not serving you? I think that's that. So it's those kinds of questions that we go. We also go into questions around boundaries. How do you set boundaries? Because there's this thing particularly when you get married, they say you are one. I mean, honestly, there's nobody who's one. I will always be myself. My partner will always be himself. But the point is, how do we walk side by side? He can't take over my steps. I can't take over his steps. But how do we walk side by side and support each other? Now, the thing about it, what you were saying, is that depending on who you have, they will be stumbling all over trying to take over your steps. Then for you, because of how you're struggling to show up for yourself, you then basically just lie down and be that doormat that then the partner can walk all over. And so this issue comes back to the same thing, Nos. It's showing up for yourself. Showing up for yourself does not mean you are on your own. By nature, we are relational by nature. And therefore, relationships and connections and connection make us whole also. And so it's not saying, I'm married and I do want to remain married. And I mean that. I'm serious about wanting to remain married like for life. So this is real. And so, but it's a question of how do I show up? And in my relationship, how do I also navigate the things that are important to me? How do you draw boundaries? One of the big things around women, how do I express my needs in a relationship is a big one. Because as women, we kind of assume he should know that I like flowers, I don't like, I don't know what. By now, been together for 50 years, so he should know. No, he doesn't. So this thing about expressing our needs, both in the family environment with our siblings and everybody, in the intimate relationships, but also at work, to say, listen, I'm doing this, I'm not able to take more work. Because I'm fine with this. Until I finish this, I feel I cannot. That's expressing your needs. As long as you said that your boss is going to pile off additional, and the other people are saying, I'm not able, so they are not getting. Before you know, you are crying victim. He's always me because you haven't said anything. He's a woman to now decide that now you've had enough, because he's also worried about you saying you are not being stretched enough. Isn't it that you are not being stretched enough? Yes, but then when it's enough, express your needs. So there's a whole thing around expressing needs as well.
I mean, that feels like a masterclass on its own, because it's clear whether we're talking about Njolo, whether we're talking about relations in the workplace, whether we're talking about even in the extended family space, you know, how do you learn how to use your words to express your own needs and wants? And I suppose that it's led me to another question, which is, I mean, if I think about where did we forget about our own needs and wants as women, I think oftentimes it's in the fabric of how we're socialized. We are socialized to serve. We are socialized to put others first. We're socialized to rear, nurture. We're socialized to not actually show up for oneself as a primary way of responding to one's needs and wants. And I suppose my question is, how much of the conversations then invite the ladies to grapple with culture and to grapple with tradition and to grapple with socialization? Because surely that must have some sort of impact in how we then show up in later years.
No, absolutely. I mean, I think the issue of socialization is a big one. So again, I mean, that for me, that's the beauty of coaching, because
Mm.
it into exactly those areas of how we socialize, because how we socialize ends up being how we show up, both for ourselves and also for others. So this thing of giving of ourselves to the point where there's nothing to give and we keep giving. So we give now from a completely empty cup, and we are scraping. And what I keep saying to young women in particular is that the interesting thing about this selflessness, under it is resentment.
Mm.
We are not even aware how resentful we are as we continue to do this. So when you're coaching somebody, you kind of engaging, bringing awareness through questioning. You are not saying to them, you are resentful. No, it's just engaging with the person to the point they realize how resentful. The same, so, I mean, at home they want this, tomorrow they want that, they want that, they want that. You're giving because you feel you have to give, and you behind you are so resentful. And for those who are religious, I normally say to them, I mean, God knows everything, sees everything. He can see that you are not giving from a point of godliness. You
Mm.
don't, but you are giving because you are expected to give. So you're not even getting brownie points from God at that point. So what's the point when you are resentful, you are broken inside? Even God actually is not giving you brown points. So what's the point? Because
Mm.
that's, so it's this thing of saying, show up for yourself. The thing of self-awareness, and because women talk about this thing, I don't want to be seen as selfish. It's a
Mm.
here. And then we start to engage, what does selfish means? We are not saying, I mean, I think nobody's saying that you should not be. Remember I talked about we are all human beings, are relational in nature, but you give from a cup that is full.
Mm.
You give the bit that is overflowing.
Mm.
That's what you are sharing. It's those bits that you don't need. Those are the things that you're giving up. Not
Yeah.
giving from just, yeah. And I keep, I
From
mean,
your own.
when you are scraping the pot, that noise.
Mm. Yeah.
And that's what happens to you, to your heart, when you are giving from a place of a completely empty cup.
Sure. So I'm gonna steal the little few minutes that we have, and I'm gonna steer the conversation elsewhere, because as I said, we're still encountering this challenge with the questions and the comments. But I actually, conversations come to mind that I was a part of last week. I was actually moderating this for one of the investment firms in South Africa, and it was based on a study that shows that because of the gender pay gap in corporate South Africa, and I think the stat was that men can get paid up to 30% more than women for the same job.
Mm.
That gender pay gap actually translates into a retirement savings gap as well. So if you're getting less when you're getting paid, it also means in your later years for your retirement, you're always going to come off poorer
Yeah.
than any man. And so women then get stuck into the cycle of being the face of poverty. But the thing that struck me in that conversation was a young South African assistant professor who was actually based at the University of Canberra in New Zealand. And she was saying that they've actually calculated what they call the family penalty, and
Yes.
that women between the ages of, I think it was 25 to 35, that decade, and it kind of overlaps a little bit with the Traversing Liminality group, is where the gap starts. So before 25, you're pretty
Yes.
much on par with any young man in the workplace, if you have all the things that you've already, that you would be addressing. But if you don't, you can imagine that in addition to that, then the gender pay gap starts. And so you're only disadvantaged in every other way, but you also then to get disadvantaged as you follow a pathway of becoming relatively poorer to the same young man that you started off with in the workplace, and you're becoming relatively poor because we don't pay for the care economy. Nobody really, we're making some gains with paternity leave as an example, but it really, we're sort of fiddling at the edges because a lot of firms are still overpaying men relative to women. And it just made me wonder in the relation to this conversation that how much of the traversing liminality experience also empowers women to think about the financial aspects of their journey and to make the kind of decisions where they're conscious about the impact it's having on their own financial aspirations, and whether we're really making progress when it comes to the financial empowerment of young Black women.
Thanks for that question, Naz, because in traversing liminality, so we've got the 12 months when you're going through the program. But the girls themselves, I call them girls with a capital G. And so the girls themselves who've been through the program, starting like last year or 2 years ago, they said, Dr. G, we would like to start an alumni program. Because once we've been through the program, we're not going anywhere. You're not going to throw us out to now go fend for ourselves. We will do that, but we would like to remain in the family because of what we've gained, both to support the new cohorts that come in, but also, as you say, the whole range of other things that we still need support around. And one of the sessions, which was done, I think it was early this year, was relationship with money. Women have got a very peculiar relationship with money. I mean, some of the issues are the ones that you are raising, and also beyond, because even with this family penalty, even when we know we deserve more, we don't know how to actually negotiate for more. And there's stats again, which says when women come and you are being recruited somewhere, men will never take what they're given. They negotiate what they're given, they understand as a starting point for negotiation. Women, whatever the offer comes, we take the offer, we never negotiate, because we always feel like we deserve less than we actually deserve. Some of it, that gap starts exactly there, because men, women, we don't, because we don't want bangathi sithanda imali. Again, it's all of that. And so this thing about, so the girls have now started that engagement about relationship with money and relationship with wealth. How do women relate to wealth? And which is about, it's legitimate for women to actually go out there and say, I want to be a billionaire. How many women have you heard say, my intention to be a billionaire? Men say this all of the time. We don't. So we brought in, we had a session around that, and we brought in people that are in that space. I mean, I think most people will know Wendy Luhabe, was founders of Withhold. We brought in Wendy, we brought in Vangile, who was much younger. We brought the two of them to engage with girls around this issue of relationship with money and relationship with health. So these are some of the aspects that we're dealing with, not in the 12-month program, but they run parallel now with the other program. We're dealing with women's health. We're dealing with how do you position yourself. We brought you to come and facilitate that session, you will recall. So there's the main program, which is dealing with the being, as I said, which is quite structured. And then as an alumni, and even when you are in the current cohort, there are all range of master classes that run parallel that you also have access to. Relationship, women's health also. It's a very, very big topic. The many issues around health and women, starting from skincare, how do we look after our scales, issues of fertility, issues of body, all these issues that are complicated for women, particularly from Black women, again, because culture has got certain interpretations, certain views that are held by culture about why things are what they are. So we need to be engaging with all those issues. Again, the key thing for us is to bring in specialists who can start to open discussions around that. And most importantly, to say it's legitimate.
Sure, I think that's
your anxiety is legitimate.
Yeah, that's absolutely beautiful and so powerful. You know, that question of, you know, legitimacy, because I think it's the thing that withholds us from actually asking and saying even the things, you know, I always talk about psychological safety, and I say the simplest definition of psychological safety is people say what they feel safe enough to say.
Yeah.
And the minute you create a space that is psychologically safe, they will say the things that they would otherwise not say. And that's really, really important. You know, one of the things I took away from that conversation very quickly was also the fact that as women, you need to be sharp enough to know whether your financial advisor is biased in the financial advice they're giving you, because they too are human, and they're probably ingrained in them that women should have these type of financial arrangements versus, you know, comparison to men, more risk averse and so on and so forth. So you need to be empowered enough to be asking the right questions, to be saying, but why are you putting that in front of me instead of this? So in the final question, what would be the message that you would want to share with everybody who's either watching right now, but we're also posting this onto our YouTube page. And oftentimes we get views from around the world from that page. And again, guys, if you're listening and you haven't subscribed, please do subscribe. Just go to Nozi Pushabalala, look for the YouTube page. Please subscribe. That's where we're putting all the Mentorship Mondays. That's where we're uploading all the Mentorship Mondays. So a final message from you, Dr. Gwagwa, to those who for the first time are hearing about traversing liminality, also just broadly, young Black women who are actually the majority who sign in to these Mentorship Monday calls, who might have resonated with a lot of the issues that you've just brought to the surface. Any final message to them?
Any concern, fear, anxiety that you have is legitimate. That's the first one. The second one is you only have yourself to look out for. Really, you only know yourself. So it's important for you to raise your own awareness of things that you might not be aware of that are going on, that are holding you back. And self-development is about showing up for yourself, and it's a lifelong journey, and you need support to actually drive that. So for us, as from traversing liminality, as I said, if you are between 21 and 30, you are a Black woman and you are serious about showing up for yourself, maybe this is a home for you. And we put out applications. It will be out on our socials and also on our website. It's probably going to come, I think, end of September, beginning of October. We'll be putting out a call for applications. We only take 100 because we can't move beyond 100. It's just that's all we have. But if you apply because you're serious about it, because there's so many more that want to actually join the family. And fluency in English certainly is an important bit because of the program, the way it's structured, and some of the tools that we put together are also important. So that's for the girls. And you don't have to be in South Africa. You can be anywhere in the continent. You can also be outside South Africa or outside Africa, but be an African diaspora young woman. We've got in the program girls that are sitting in the UK, in Ireland, that are actually part of, even this year, I'm coaching a young Kenyan woman who's based in the UK, who's doing engineering. So she's here, she's in the program. And so, and as I said, this year, we've got 21 girls from Benin in West Africa. That's why I was in Benin to go and visit the girls. We've got girls in Kenya. That's why I was in Kenya to visit girls there. In Namibia, we've got 10 in Lesotho. That's why I was in Lesotho. But most importantly as well, if you're a qualified coach, if you're a qualified clinical psychologist, and you feel passionate about leaving a legacy and touching the lives of young women, and you don't want to be deja vu. You want the future to be different from ours. This is a platform, because as coaches, also as faculty, we're also supporting each other. We've got our own sessions as faculty as well. We've got our chief coach. You've got others. If you are coaching somebody and you feel you're out of your depth about this topic or another, here is a safe space where you can call out without being judged and say, hey, Noz, I've got this case that I'm dealing with. How would you approach it? What's your view? We are in the process of also putting together a coach supervision platform, which is, again, for those who are qualified coaches know that when you are a coach, you also need to have supervision as well for somebody, from somebody else who's not in the case, just to make sure that the standards and the ethics and quality is there. So we are in the process of introducing a supervision for our own coaches as well. So that as a coach, you aren't just giving. There's something that you are also getting as a coach to enhance your own skill as a coach. So if you're a Black woman coach, clinical psychologist, here's your platform. If you're a young woman, 21 to 30, here's your platform. Come home.
I love that. Come home. It's time to traverse that liminality. It's absolutely amazing. What a beautiful way to kick off Women's Month of an actual active program available for women across the continent, African diaspora around the world as well. But just to say that here's a space where you can be seen fully, legitimately, with your full range of experiences, your full range of questions, of fears, of dreams and your aspirations, but also how about you also step in and be a part of the solution? So if you're sitting there and you've got the skills and the capability, here's a platform that will allow you to make a tangible difference in the lives of other women. Remember last week we spoke about the importance of not just celebrating being first, but also celebrating the fact that because of me, others will too. This is the opportunity to also be, to exercise that muscle and make sure that you're giving back if you're a coach or clinical psychologist. Dr. Gwagwa, thank you so much. I think it's been I can't believe the hour's gone. I don't know how. I think it's been an excellent hour. We just want to appreciate you so much for your time and to celebrate you for your work, because I think it really is giving us the fuel for the rest of the month. As we go into August, this has been absolutely electrifying and igniting to give us the energy as we continue to engage in a range of issues that are going to be spotlighted as still problematic when it comes to women. It's really amazing to also realize that we started off in a space where there is a solution, something is being done, sleeves are rolled up, and people are getting down to work and working on themselves in the process. So thank you so much, Siyabonga. Good night and bye to all.
Everyone, I see some people are asking for an intermediate course, 31 to 40. Again, thank you very much, Noz, and thank you very much.
I don't see any of these comments. Hopefully, I'm going to read maybe later.
Yeah. So, but thank you very much, Noz, for the opportunity, and to your followers, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Thank you.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye.